Hey kids, so today I bring to you the sauce of a lifetime. This is Goblins with a Materiactor engine. This was actually an interaction that was brought to my attention by a member of my Discord, actually, wubo. So shout out wubo. Thanks. But basically, Materiactor Gigaboros, adding a material attached to it to hand is legally considered detaching by cards like Gigantic Champion Sargus or Goblin Biker Big Kabonga. So what you do is you put a tour guide under Gigaboros, then Gigaboros back the tour guide, and now you can trigger the Kabonga to remove a card while also having the Gigaboros add back your follow-up, which is your one-card starter for next turn, right? And so it's pretty standard Goblin Biker, but you also have the option to play this crazy power play. The issue is that in order to make this a really efficient combo line, you do have to play a Materiactor monster in order to get Mean Merciless out from under the Gigaboros. So that way it can summon itself. The way that you do that is by playing the only main deck Materiactor monster, Gigadra. And Gigadra is, if you squint really, really hard, almost tour guide from the underworld. It is on its own, well, with a discard, full goblin combo because it's a one-card rank 3. However, that requires that you play a normal monster, so it never really took off, but here it is actually an engine requirement because of the Gigaboros rather, in order to make that like crazy good without having to draw like 2 to 3 card combos. So we're on for our vanilla target, the all-seeing white tiger. Now, this is an optimal target. We'll go over that in a bit later, but first I'd like to talk about why this engine and why Materiactor is good in Goblins. You see, Materiactors do something that Goblins don't really have in engine without making the best of hands and playing dog shit cards like Beatrice. And that is, it's a way to trigger Kabonga in the battle phase, right? So, in terms of rank 3s that detach proactively, there's like 5, right? There's Gigaboros, there's Shadow Lich, McCrift Engineer, Temtempo the Percussion Djinn, and if you squint, DDD Stone King Darius, but that one's not really generic, right? So Shadow Lich is worse than Gigaboros because summoning a 500 level 1 token that protects Shadow Lich from being targeted for attacks isn't as good as adding a card back to your hand. McCrift Engineer is worse because it just does less, like straight up. Like, why would I use McCrift Engineer to detach and switch something to defense position and make it indestructible when I can instead just add Tour Guide back to my hand? Temtempo, the Percussion Djinn, requires an Xyz monster on your opponent's side of the field, and Stone King Darius requires a Dark Contract card, which we're not on. So the best option to proactively trigger Gigaboros is, to proactively trigger Kabonga rather, is Gigaboros. And you might be wondering, well, why do you need to do that at all? Don't the goblins do that inherently? And the answer to that question is yes, with a big asterisk, right? So all the goblins are main phase locked. Boombox is main phase locked, Cloud Exploder is main phase locked, and Mean Merciless and Doug the Assaulter are locked into your turn only, their ignition effects. So so if you want your opponent to not be able to force things out by just going to battle phase, Gigaboros allows you to proactively trigger the Kabonga without, while also burning your opponent's battle phase, which is really important. That's a very powerful thing to do. Now you might be wondering why we are doing that at all. Why are we triggering Kabonga proactively? Well, it's really quite simple. All the good rank 3s that, aside from Gigaboros exactly, because he counts now. I'm sorry to say, he counts. They're all reactive cards. Stuff like Ashura King, Totem Bird, and Cicada King only detach when your opponent does something, right? So they detach to negate, and that's good. But the issue is that now you're entirely reliant on your goblins to trigger Kabonga, because if you aren't, then you're reliant on these cards, and if you're reliant on these cards, then that means that your opponent has to deal with all of your removal in the same... everything has to come sequentially. It's all staggered chains, right? And anyone that's tried to play pure Valence will be able to tell you why that's not very good, right? It really, really has to count, and that makes things super awkward. So instead of doing that, we play Gigaboros as a method to trigger Kabanga proactively, so that way we can spread our interaction out and let our opponent play into things or play around things or whatever the hell, however you want to describe it. Basically, card is good. As for the vanilla choice particularly, the All-Seeing White Tiger is the best level 3 vanilla. Normally, the correct answer would be Jerry Beans Man, because it has the highest attack stat of all the level 3 vanillas. However, it's got a really bad attribute because it can't be half of Totem Bird, right? We want a wind. So, because we want a wind, the highest attack wind is Sonic Duck. However, Sonic Duck is a winged beast, which means that you can't summon Totem Bird under there can be only one. If you normal summon Gigadra, or summon like the All-Seeing White Tiger with a Takaton board in hand, for example. So playing the All-Seeing White Tiger lets you summon Totem Bird under there can be only one. Technically, there is a better target than the All-Seeing White Tiger, and that is Dark Shade, because it's a fiend, so it's half of Stone King Darius to go into Machinex, and it's half of Totem Bird under the Tikaboo, but that's neither here nor there, because Dark Shade is an OCG-only card, so it doesn't exist for me. Gozen Match is something that you can consider if you want to play around it, because Gigadra is a dark, so you can play Hunter Dragon as your target to play around both Gozen, and technically it plays around Rivalry of Warlords as well, but the only good Xyz 3 that's a dragon is Leviathan Dragon, so it's like it's Leviathan Dragon and Gigaboros, so it's like, well, what are you doing? Why do you care about that? You're not doing anything anyway, why bother? Another option to play around that is Sealmaster Meisei, which plays around both Gozen and Tikaboo, but doesn't have the attribute for Totem Bird, so I value it a little lower than the All-Seeing White Tiger. And that's basically everything that went into the deck building. In terms of like niche text, stuff that's not standard. We're on Unexpected Die, because that way the All-Seeing White Tiger, even if we don't have Gigadra, has purpose. Oftentimes, if you don't open one of your 8 functional tour guides, you'll need to find a way to get a second 3 on field, and goblins are pretty bad at summoning a second 3 without an Xyz on field, so Unexpected Die plus any of your like 6 hand traps, any goblin, or like any copy of just any copy of a 3 plus Unexpected Die is full combo. Yeah, let's hop into the games. For the first game, we'll be going up against Power Spell Turbo. It's I guess they're on like Necroface branded, I guess. I don't know what Striker Dragon's doing here, but they're playing cards. All right, they're playing cards. Just 5 cards. Well, really, it's 2 cards that would give you. It's just a deck of cards that would give you a heart attack, and cards to get to the cards that would give you a heart attack. Anyway, we are going first. We're going to start with Unexpected Die for the All-Seeing White Tiger, the normal summon Gigadra. It's like we use the effect anyway. Beautiful. Now we can use Kabanga. That eats an Ash. We'll go for Grand Entrance, adding Doug and detaching to summon Doug. And then Doug is going to activate, and then Kabanga is going to attach it. And we add Grand Bash. A big mistake here. I was not supposed to add Grand Bash. I was supposed to add a second Grand Entrance to hand, but I was like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I'll get Grand Bash into rotation, but it would have been much more advantageous to get Grand Entrance for next turn. Anyway, we'll add back Doug and then go for Xyz Armor Fortress, detach to search for Full Armored Xyz, and then detach the All-Seeing White Wolf to summon, or All-Seeing White Tiger to summon Doug. We'll Full Armored Xyz for Dark Lancer, now that it has no materials, and they will Gold Sark for Necroface. They'll activate Necroface and then activate Allure. So this Ash on Allure looks really shitty, but basically, because I saw that they were on some flavor of Necroface 8-axis shenanigans, I was operating on the assumption that their hand was probably due to Ash, given that they were alluring. So I go ahead and Ash to try and put them on as little as I can, so that way the Dark Lancer can do as much damage as I can. In retrospect, seeing their hand, I now recognize that they shouldn't, especially, or that I shouldn't have, especially because, oh, wait, no, that's the one side. Okay, so they would have found Dimension Shifter Super Poly, so I would have gotten punished, but, you know, we ash this, and then they go Talent to take the Dark Lancer, then Droplet it away for Doug, Triple Thrust for Brand Fusion, go for Libellion with no cards in hand, sending Necroface, and then they pass. Anyway, we're gonna normal summon Bell and then go for Gabanga. This replay is from an older version of the deck where I had Bell in over Mortar. Mortar's technically better because, I mean, playing 3 more Veilers is pretty good, but also it's a win for Totem Bird. But I digress. We'll go for Gabanga, go for Grand Bash, activate Boom Mock, detaching Doug to summon itself, and then Gabanga is going to attach the Libellion, and our opponent will concede. This is why it was better to go for a second copy of Grand Entrance off the Doug in game 1 earlier, by the way. It's because this Grand Bash is doing nothing, but if I had a copy of the normal spell, I would have been able to full combo and kill them. But, you know, it is what it is. Live and learn. For our next game, we'll be going second against Exo Sister. Looks like they're on the Spirits, and they're going to start by normal summoning Aratama, which I imperm, expecting that to win me the game, but they did draw the one out, which is the Sakitama. They'll normal summon that and then go for Caspatel. Caspatel is going to search for them a copy of Martha. They'll Martha, all Ash, their deck is bad. They'll set Returnia and pass. So we are going to start with Unexpected Die for a copy of All-Seeing White Tiger, then special summon Takatomborg and go for Gabanga. Gabanga's effect activates, but our opponent will Returnia to banish the Gabanga. We'll add Doug Charger and then detach from the Caspatel to summon itself, and activate its effect to go grab Grand Entrance. We'll normal summon Gigadra and go for Big Gabanga again, then Entrance for Clattersplitter, summoning it by detaching from the Gabanga. We'll activate in sequence Clattersplitter and Gabanga, attaching the Caspatel, and then summoning back Doug and going for Xyz Armor Torpedo. We'll activate the effect to go for Doug and Xyz Armor Fortress for a copy of Fallen Xyz, and now we're going to do something a little cute. We're going to summon Dark Knight Lancer, set in main 1, because I just genuinely forgot it was turn 1, or turn 2 rather. Attack for some damage, getting them down to 2,000, and an end phase attaching Boom Mock. So here is something pretty cute. You might be wondering, oh, how are you going to trigger the Dark Knight Lancer? What, your Fallen Xyz is right here. You can't perform an Xyz summon. You can't summon the Dark Knight Lancer. It's already on field. Well, in response to the Martha, we'll activate Clattersplitter, triggering in sequence Clattersplitter and Big Gabanga to attach the Martha, so that way they only summon one Xyz and summon back Doug. They'll activate Ellis, we'll activate Doug, they'll Ash Doug, we'll activate Fallen Xyz, performing a Xyz summon of the Cicada King, checking the monster that they summon off the Ellis, which is Jabreen. Now we'll activate the Fallen Xyz to equip Xyz Armor Torpedo. We'll attach the Jabreen. They will use Jabreen to negate the Cicada King, then normal summon Stella, and reveal that they had another Martha in hand. They'll overlay for Michaelis. Michaelis is going to search them a copy of Pax, and then they will banish the Big Gabanga to cut me on Gabangas, then activate extra Pax to pay 800 and add Sophia, then realize they have nothing to check the Dark Knight Lancer or the Cicada King, and pass. Woof. By the way, for anyone wondering why they couldn't just go battle phase and then make Zeus and clear the field, Boom Mock and Grave hadn't summoned itself yet, so I could have just detached from the Michaelis in main 2, or rather detached from the Michaelis when they attempted to go battle phase, and they would have been shit out of luck. And for our last game, what a hand from both myself and our opponent on Voiceless Voice. Oh my. Just a thing of beauty. So we're going to start with Terratop, and that's going to feed an Infinite Impermanence. I guess our opponent thought we were on Speed Ride. Now we'll normal summon Tour Guide and summon from deck a copy of Mean Merciless. We'll overlay for Gigaboros and then detach Mean Merciless to equip a copy of Gigadra. We'll use Mean Merciless, detaching the Gigadra to go into Gabanga, and Gabanga is going to go grab Doug. We use Doug, detaching Mean Merciless to summon itself, and then add Grand Entrance. Grand Entrance is going to add Clattersplitter, which will now detach from the Terratop to summon itself, and then Mean Merciless. We'll go for a Short King, set 2, and pass in the end phase, equipping Boom Mock. Our opponent is going to lead with pre-preparation of rights, and now that I know that they're on a bad deck, I feel wonderful. They'll normal Diviner. Will negate that to keep them off of low, but they have it already. They'll activate Prayers, and we will chain Gigaboros to add Tour Guide back to hand. They tribute off the low to summon Skull Guardian, and before the low can summon itself and the negate is live, because we added back the Tour Guide, Gabanga can attach the Skull Guardian. So that will summon back the low, and they'll add Saphira. They'll activate low, which I will infinite impermanence. The reason why I imperm here is because I want this low to be unable to be used as tribute material if for the Saphira, which would be able to ritual summon that stuff. So we'll go ahead and imperm the low, so that way it can't be used as the full tribute. Then they'll summon Saravis and then pitch Saphira. We'll call by the Saphira, and then they will chain Saravis, summoning Skull Guardian, and now they've got a negate. So they'll go battle phase and punch over our Gabanga for 2,000 damage, then go for Dynamondo. They'll try to Dynamondo back our Shuriken, but we will reveal the Effect Veiler in hand ruins them, and then when they try to pass turn, we'll summon Clattersplitter detaching from the Shuriken. Clattersplitter brings back Doug, and as I'm about to go grab a copy of the continuous spell, our opponent will concede. So that's the deck. It's really sick, the synergy between Gigaboros and Gabanga, the way that these engines flow together, and the way that Gigaboros adding Tour Guide back to your hand, it's just such an incredible power play. It feels like, we're back in 2014 adding Tour Guide off Skarm in Burning Abyss, and that's just so cool. Anyway, that's all I have for you today. I do have a few more things in the works, another Raid Raptor combo guide, a couple articles, but you'll just have to wait for those.